On our newscast tonight, the Korean government plans to grant greater power to relevant experts to try and gain an upper hand in the fight against the MERS virus. And at the confirmation hearing for Korea's prime minister nominee, lawmakers threw out some tough questions on suspicious funds and draft dodging. Ahead of the G7 summit, leaders of the U.S. and Germany sit down to discuss ways to more effectively counter Russia's aggression against Ukraine. Stay with us with these stories and more on Primetime News.
It's 10 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. I'm Hwang Joonhees for Primetime News.
And I'm Daniel Choy. Good to have you with us. The Korean government confirmed 23 more cases today, bringing the total number of Middle East Respiratory Syndrome or MERS patients to 87.
And one more patient died today, raising the death toll to 6. For more, we connect to Ji Myung-gil at the News Center. Myung-gil, what do we know about this latest MERS victim?
Yes, Ji-hye, health authorities confirmed today that the victim was a male patient in his 80s who died while being treated at a hospital in Daejeon. Originally, he had been showing symptoms of pneumonia but tested positive for MERS 2 days ago and was moved to an isolation ward within the hospital. He was said to be transported to a government-designated hospital in the afternoon, but unfortunately died in the morning. Korea's health ministry says 17 of the newly confirmed MERS cases came from the same hospital and contracted the virus from the 14th patient at the Samsung Medical Center in Seoul. We also have the first case of a teenager coming down with MERS. The male high school student had received brain surgery at the Samsung Medical Center late last month and is believed to have caught the virus while there. Health authorities reassured that the young boy did not have contact with anyone outside the hospital. In a press briefing this morning, health officials from the MERS Central Response Headquarters said they expect that further spread of the virus will peak this week and probably start to drop off soon after.
Children in Korea are probably celebrating the fact they don't have to go to school, although they don't understand the gravity of the situation. The government did say it's unnecessary to close schools. We know that hundreds of schools remain closed today. Do you have an update on the overall figures, Myung-gil?
Well, Daniel, nearly 2,000 schools were closed today due to concerns over students' safety. It's affected kindergartens, elementary, middle, and high schools, and also over a dozen universities. This means 1 out of 10 schools across the country were closed. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. Currently, 87 patients are confirmed with MERS. More than 1,600 people are suspected infectees. 6 deaths have been reported, but there have also been 2 recoveries, and more than 2,500 people remain under quarantine.
Now, World Health Organization officials will be visiting Korea tomorrow, and what can we expect from their trip?
What we know is that a joint Korea WHO response team will assess the current MERS situation and come up with additional measures to contain the virus. During the 4-day investigation period, the team will be checking quarantine facilities and focus on tracking down the path of the virus by visiting hospitals that are treating MERS patients. They will also investigate if the virus has changed in any way, as well as conditions in Korea, which may have contributed to its fast spread. They are expected to release their results at a press conference on Saturday. The organization is not directly involved in developing vaccines for the virus, but it is initiating talks with research groups that are working to find a cure for the disease. Ji-hye?
All right, Myung-gil, thanks for that report. We appreciate it. And now Korea has the second largest number of MERS patients in the world, following Saudi Arabia. In less than a month since the first outbreak of the disease, the country confirmed nearly 90 cases.
So there are a few questions that left lingering in the air. If the virus is not mutated, why is it in Korea? And why is the rare virus spreading so fast here? Our Han Da-eun points out some key factors responsible for those.
Saudi Arabia, where the MERS virus was first detected in 2012, reported 425 cases over 1 year. In Korea, 87 cases have been confirmed in 20 days. These numbers have many medical experts in and out of Korea wondering how one imported case, 99.5% identical to that of Saudi Arabia's, could lead to so many infections in such a short time. Experts first point to the hospital environment in Korea. Most cases were transmitted in relatively narrow and crowded wards or emergency areas where several people share a room. During early stages of the disease, MERS patients were hospitalized in the packed rooms until confirmation. Many experts say those first days are when patients secrete the most virus. Margaret Chan, Director General of the World Health Organization, in an interview with Yonhap News Agency, also called attention to Korea's unique culture of families not only visiting but staying with a patient for a long period of time. Lee Jong-gu, director at the Center for Global Medicine of Seoul National University, blamed inadequate quarantine ventilation facilities at hospitals. Moreover, a U.S. science magazine citing the WHO's point person on MERS, Peter Ben Mbarak, questioned if Korean medics had placed tubes in patients' airways for mechanical ventilation, a procedure that could have the side effect of causing the virus to be transmissible by air. Most experts agree the hazardous hospital environment, coupled with the Korean government's weak initial containment response, has led to the super spreading of the rare virus. However, health officials stress all secondary and tertiary infections occurred within hospitals, so there is no need to be overly afraid of MERS spreading in the general public. 한다은, Arirang News.
We will end the MERS outbreak by the end of this week. That's what President Park Geun-hye said during a visit to the Central Response Headquarters today.
And for that objective, she called for a new task force of experts that will have full authority to do whatever it takes to contain the outbreak. Our Choi-sun reports.
Recognizing Korea's slow and ineffective initial response to the MERS outbreak, President Park Geun-hye has delegated authority to a new task force. The group of infectious disease experts will decide whether to shut down affected hospitals and will be able to request administrative support.
그래서 현재 방역의 핵심이라고 할 수 있는 것은 감염 경로를 완전하게 파악을 하는 것, 그리고 그 연결고리를 완벽하게 단절하는 것. 그리고 추가적인 접촉을 차단하는 것이라고 할 수 있습니다. 근데 이것이 계속 변하는 상황에 있기 때문에 여기에 맞춰서 신속한 결정이 필요합니다.
The president called on the central and local governments to meet the urgent shortage of personnel and thoroughly check up on people in voluntary house quarantine. She said more funds should be allocated in next year's budget to increase treatment facilities and medical staff. Aside from containing the virus, the president called on the government's response headquarters to find ways to financially assist workers who aren't earning because they're in quarantine, as well as working parents affected by school and kindergarten closures. President Park also stressed the need for economic policymakers to come up with measures to minimize economic impact of the outbreak. With a shared goal of wiping out the virus, she said it was time for all levels of government, rival political parties, civilian experts, and the general public to set aside differences to enforce containment measures. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Let's now move on to the confirmation hearing for the Prime Minister nominee, Hwang Joonhees, the center of attention at the National Assembly today. And our Park Ji-won tells us more about the questions thrown his way.
Lawmakers from the Assembly's Special Committee on Confirmation Hearings questioned the Prime Minister nominee on a number of issues and allegations. The 58-year-old former chief prosecutor and current justice minister was tapped for the nation's second highest position by President Park Geun-hye last month after former Prime Minister Lee Wan-gu resigned from the post due to a high-profile bribery scandal. The ruling Saenuri Party focused on Hwang's qualifications and the policy directions it pursued after becoming prime minister.
Why do you think President Park Geun-hye has appointed you, current Justice Minister, to be the Prime Minister?
Although I cannot fully infer the President's motive, I believe she appointed me. to be the center of the government's effort to revive the sluggish economy and stabilize the livelihoods of the people.
However, lawmakers from opposition parties dug into a series of allegations, including a hefty paycheck that Hwang earned at a major law firm. Since retiring from his previous career as the nation's chief prosecutor, the firm paid him about $1.5 million over 17 months. But many question his role there, as he had now reportedly dealt with many cases.
Have you ever wielded unfair influence in trials? Have you ever accepted a doubtful case?
I made considerable effort not to wield any influence and abstain from taking such cases.
The committee also grilled Hwang on allegations of draft dodging and his previous career as prosecutor specializing in national security law. Regarding the military service, Hwang said he's always felt indebted to the public, but he was exempt from the mandatory service due to a skin disease. Hwang said he will resign from his current justice minister post if he fails to pass the grueling confirmation hearing process. The hearing will conclude on Wednesday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Korea's central bank chief Ji-hye has emphasized the importance of countermeasures against the U.S. Federal Reserve's looming interest rate hike. He said Monday that the U.S. rate hike would raise payment burdens for Korean households, companies, and financial institutions while generating investment losses. He stressed that Korea must build resilience to external shocks by strengthening its economic fundamentals through structural reforms. The top central banker also said that monetary policies should focus on responding to the country's low growth and low inflation. The Bank of Korea's rate-setting session will take place this Thursday.
In other news, senior officials from Korea and Japan are set to hold talks in Seoul on Tuesday to try and resolve a heated row over Tokyo's controversial bid to inscribe wartime industrial facilities as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. This will be their second meeting on the issue. It comes as Tokyo bids for World Heritage status of 23 industrial facilities when 7 of them used nearly 60,000 Koreans as forced laborers during Japan's colonial rule of Korea. The final decision on the bid will be made during a meeting of the World Heritage Committee early next month in Germany. 225 Japanese scholars have joined the chorus of voices calling for a sincere apology from Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The group issued a statement on Monday in Tokyo urging Abe to offer amends for the country's past wrongdoings. They say the comfort women issue needs to be addressed most urgently. The statement comes as 2015 marks the 50th year of diplomatic ties between Seoul and Tokyo, as well as the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. A Japanese journalist has released a film that documents the lives of 7 Korean victims of Japan's wartime sex slavery. Shot in the mid-1990s, all of the women have since passed on, but the filmmaker hopes his documentary goes a small way to help them get what they so desperately wanted and deserved, an apology. Our Kim Yeon-bin introduces us to the film and its director.
Kang Deok-kyung was in first grade when she was taken by Japanese troops in 1929 to work at a factory. She tried to escape, but was captured soon after and sent to a military brothel. On her way home, after Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule in 1945, she found out she was pregnant. But unfortunately, her child died of an illness at a child care facility. Kang then lived a long, lonely life and died in 1997. Her life and suffering will be remembered, though, as Japanese journalist Toshikuni Doi has released a documentary portraying her life and the lives of 6 other so-called comfort women. He followed a woman to document their struggles for over 2 years, between December 1994 and January 1997. All 7 women have since passed away. The film titled Live with the Memory, The Life of Comfort Woman Kang Deok-kyung, is over 3 hours and 30 minutes long, but it sends out a powerful message.
If I didn't make this movie, the victims' voices would not have been heard.
Doi was hesitant to release the documentary at first, but Osaka Mayor Toru Hashimoto's comments in 2013 that the comfort woman system was necessary stiffened his determination to release the film.
A true patriot should not just amplify what his country does well, he should also recognize its wrongdoings.
Those Japanese who saw the film are urging their government to repent.
After watching this documentary, I believe my government should compensate the victims.
Despite growing pressure to bring some closure to the victims' suffering, the Abe administration in Japan remains tight-lipped on the issue. Only 52 Korean victims of Japan's wartime sex slavery are still alive. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Shifting gears to a more lighter story, in this day and age, you can get more than 2 minutes of fame if you really want it.
And that's all thanks to the development of one-man media, now a thriving industry here in Korea.
Our Kwon So-wa took a look at an online platform behind the surge in home broadcasting stars.
This broadcast jockey, or BJ, only needs a computer, a webcam, and a microphone to produce his one-man show. The studio, his home. BJ Songgumi has turned his hobby, palm reading, into a lucrative career, all thanks to the rise of user-created programs. The broadcast is now his primary source of income.
I work 8 hours a day at my regular job, but I sometimes earn more in 2 to 3 hours with my show as fans send me star balloons. That's when I think making money can be so difficult and so easy at the same time.
1 star balloon is equivalent to 100 won or 9 cents at Africa TV, an internet portal where viewers can watch and interact with BJs showcasing their talents in real time. Choices include talk shows, online gaming commentary, English lessons, and the latest Korean trend, mukbang, where people eat in front of the camera. Some BJs earn up to tens of thousands of dollars a month. Last year, Africa TV's annual sales and operating profit jumped by 38% and 29% from the previous year. While the rise of BJs looks like a recent phenomenon, the company says the service has matured over the last decade.
Communicating and relating with our viewers is key to us. Instead of having users react after something is aired, real-time interactions can be reflected during the broadcast.
Video these days is a means of self-expression. Also, the power of conventional media, like TV and radio, is fading, and the structure of content consumption itself is changing.
Experts say the low startup costs mean everyone has a chance to be part of the one-man media boom, especially as the evolving internet media industry isn't overly affected by conditions in the general economy. Kwon So-wa, Arirang News.
And for the top international headlines, we connect now to Paul Yi at the News Center.
Our focus today, the G7 leaders press Russia to choose the path of peace. Turkey votes to open a new political era, and the Tony Awards honors the best on Broadway.
Paul, let's begin with the G7. There's been a flurry of diplomatic activity in Germany as world leaders hold rare talks during this annual summit. Tell us more other than the beer and sausage.
Well, the group of 7 industrial nations first agreed to maintain economic sanctions on Moscow until a peace plan for Ukraine is fully implemented. But the focus for day 2 of the summit has shifted to tackling a range of global issues, from terrorism to climate change, as well as poverty and disease. Our Hwang Joonhees has the details.
Sharing a toast over Bavarian beer and sausages, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and U.S. President Barack Obama held private talks on Sunday. With the two countries facing the task of countering Russian aggression, Merkel stressed their strong alliance.
The United States and Germany share the same values and are closely cooperating for mutual benefits.
The White House said the two leaders agreed that the duration of the sanctions on Moscow should be clearly linked to Russia's full implementation of the Minsk agreements, referring to the ceasefire deal reached in February during talks in Minsk, Belarus. President Obama said discussions on Russia will continue.
Forging new trade partnerships across the Atlantic, standing up to Russian aggression in Ukraine, combating threats from violent extremism to climate change.
Ahead of the two-day summit, leaders from Canada and Japan visited Ukraine to pledge their support. The European Union also vowed to join efforts to counter Russian aggression.
Given the current situation, if anyone wants to start a debate about changing the sanctions regime, the discussion could only be about strengthening it.
Russia has been excluded from the G7 summit for the second year for backing Ukrainian separatists. Members include leaders from the U.S., Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. As the talks got underway, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets to protest the G7 meeting. Fearing further violence, German authorities dispatched some 20,000 police officers to minimize disruptions. Hwang Joonhees, Arirang News.
And political parties in Turkey are mulling over what is being described as a game-changing outcome in the country's national elections. Turkey's ruling AK party is wasting no time in seeking to forming a coalition government after it failed to win a majority in parliament for the first time in 13 years. The result has dealt a heavy blow to President Tayyip Erdogan's plans to expand his powers and transform Turkey into a presidential republic.
It is important that democracy has been improved in a multi-party system one way or another in the past 5 years. That is one of the best results of yesterday's election. Turkey has a mature democracy. Therefore, a coalition will definitely come out of this maturity.
The country's Kurdish minority celebrated in the streets after Sunday's election as the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party made history by earning over 10% of the national vote. It's the first time the party will be allowed to enter parliament and play a significant role in the state's peace process with Kurdish militant groups. And finally, the winners of the 69th Tony Awards have been named, honoring the best acts on Broadway from musicals to dramatic plays. Actress Helen Mirren won her first Tony on Sunday for her role as Queen Elizabeth II in The Audience. The British play The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime took home 5 awards, including Best Director and Actor.
I would just want to dedicate this to any young person out there who feels misunderstood or who feels different, and answer that question at the end of the play for you. Does that mean I can do anything? Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
The critically acclaimed coming-of-age story Funhouse nabbed the top acting prize for Michael Cerveris, as well as the best musical for this year. Meanwhile, Kelly O'Hara received Broadway's highest honor for her leading role in the classical musical The King and I. And that wraps up our look at international stories for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
It was hot Monday, but bearable. However, things will get steamy again tomorrow, with daytime highs climbing 2 to 7 degrees higher nationwide. And there could be early morning drizzle in the central parts, but rain and clouds will give way to lots of sunshine. And that means the UV index will also be very high, especially in the southern parts of Chungcheongdo and Jeollado provinces, where extra precaution is necessary under extreme UV rays, so make sure to slather on the sunblock and stay in the shade or indoor during the afternoon hours. On that note, let's take a closer look at the readings for tomorrow. So the daytime high here in Seoul will rise to 30, while Daegu and Gwangju hit 31, and Busan will hit 26 tomorrow afternoon. And as for the other regions, it seems like Daejeon and Jeju Island will see a high of 30 and 24, and Dokdo rises to 20. It seems like we need to get ready for the blistering heat on Wednesday. The mercury will skyrocket to 32 here in the capital, but thankfully the relief is on the way as we have light rain in the forecast at the end of the week. But that's all for the weather. Good night.
It's like a scaled-down version of life itself, isn't it? A constant balance of holding on and letting go. Well, we've come to the end of our newscast. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Daniel Choy.
And I'm Hwang Joonhees, wishing you a great start to your day or a safe drive home. We'll see you back here same time tomorrow.